The day Luna Sterling and I got married, the entire financial world went into shock. Vance Holdings and Sterling Industries had been at each other's throats for 2 decades. No one imagined we'd bury the hatchet with a merger by marriage. Even more unthinkable was that Luna and I, sworn enemies from our Ivy League days to our competing boardrooms, would be the stars of this particular corporate drama. At the ceremony, Luna was breathtaking in her white gown. I stood beside her, my smile so rigid it felt glued on. During the ring exchange, I intentionally slid the band onto her middle finger. She, in turn, accidentally smashed her bouquet into my face. Julian, after this, we lived separate lives. No interference. Back in the dressing room, Luna slapped a prenup on the table. The first clause was spelled out in no uncertain terms. I scrawled my signature with a flourish. Suits me just fine. True to our agreement, we occupied opposite wings of our sprawling duplex penthouse, barely crossing paths except for mandatory corporate events. This arrangement held for 3 months, until Luna's face was splashed across page 6 with the latest Hollywood heartthrob, Leo's son. The headlines, Sterling Heiress's late-night rendezvous with A-lister and corporate merger sham, made my eyes ache. I stared at the photo on my phone, Luna and Leo in some dimly lit restaurant, leaning in for a close conversation, and felt a strange tightness in my chest. My assistant, Kevin, asked cautiously, Mr. Vance, should I have a PR team handle this? Don't bother, I sneered. Who Luna Sterling wants to have dinner with is none of my business. That night, however, I called my secretary. Find me a college girl. Clean-cut, pretty, knows how to play a part. The next day, Chloe Jensen, a senior at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, appeared in my office. High ponytail, white t-shirt, jeans. She had 2 dimples when she smiled. Exactly my type back in college. Mr. Vance, she said, her voice bright. Mr. Wallace mentioned you needed an escort for some social events. I slid a contract across the desk. $20,000 a month. You play the part of my girlfriend. The term is 3 months. Chloe's eyes lit up, and she signed without a moment's hesitation. Watching her excitement, I imagined the look on Luna's face when this news broke. It was sure to be priceless. What I didn't expect was that on the day the contract expired, Chloe would ambush me in front of my office building. Julian, I don't want this to end, she cried, grabbing my sleeve with tear-filled eyes. I've actually fallen for you. Please don't send me away. I frowned. Ms. Jensen, this was a business arrangement, but you were so good to me these past 3 months. You took me to the best restaurants. We went to movies. You always made sure I got home safe. Her voice cracked. You like me too, don't you? Passers-by were starting to stare. I rubbed my temples, a headache blooming. Suddenly, Chloe threw herself into my arms. I caught her on instinct, and she seized the opportunity to plant a kiss on my cheek. Chloe. I started to push her away, but a cold gaze stabbed me in the back. I turned. Luna was standing a few feet away, her black pantsuit accentuating her slender waist. Her red lips were pressed into a thin line, her eyes as sharp as daggers. Wife, I blurted out, then immediately cringed at the slip-up. Ms. Sterling, what brings you here? Luna walked toward us, the click of her heels on the pavement like a countdown. She glanced at Chloe, who was still clinging to me, and a cold smirk played on her lips. Quite the soap opera you've got going on, Julian. Staging scenes on the street during business hours? Chloe straightened up, suddenly on guard. Who are you? Me? Luna laughed softly. She pulled her wallet from her purse, flicking open a small, official-looking document for us to see. His legal spouse. The color drained from Chloe's face. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole, but Luna had already turned and was heading for the Rolls-Royce parked to the curb. Wait. I instinctively took a couple of steps after her, but Chloe grabbed my arm. Mr. Vance, you're married? She stammered. Then why did you? I sighed, pulling a checkbook from my jacket. This is for your trouble. Ms. Jensen, let's part on good terms. After sending Chloe off in a cab, I immediately called Luna. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. The phone was off. When I got home that night, the penthouse was dark. The door to the east wing, where Luna resided, was locked. A post-it note was stuck to the door. Business trip. 1 week. Do not disturb. I stared at the note, that strange tightness returning to my chest. It was the first time since our wedding that Luna had left without a word. A week later, Luna returned, burning with fever. I was woken up in the middle of the night by our housekeeper. Mr. Vance, Ms. Sterling has a 102-degree fever, but she refuses to go to the hospital. I bolted to the east wing and pushed open her bedroom door. Luna was curled up on a massive bed, her cheeks flushed an unnatural red. Seeing me, she frowned weakly. We'll let you in. Get out. I ignored her protest, placing a hand on her forehead. It was terrifyingly hot. You have to go to the hospital. No, she said stubbornly, turning her face away. I have a board meeting tomorrow. I threw back the covers and scooped her into my arms. She was shockingly light, struggling in my grasp like a cornered cat. Julian Vance. Put me down. Shut up, I said, tightening my grip. Move again and I'll kiss you. She went still, her beautiful eyes glaring daggers at me. I carried her downstairs, put her in the car, and sped to the hospital. The ER doctor said it was severe exhaustion leading to a compromised immune system. I sat by her bedside, watching the fluid drip, drip, drip. Luna had fallen asleep, her long lashes casting shadows on her cheeks, making her look softer than I'd ever seen her. A nurse came in to change the drip. Your wife is very beautiful, she said quietly. It took me a second to realize she was talking about Luna. Right, she was legally my wife, but I had never once thought of her as my wife. Luna woke up in the early morning, sunlight filtering through the blinds. She seemed startled to see me still there. You didn't leave? No, I said, handing her a glass of warm water. How are you feeling? She took a small sip, ignoring my question. Instead, she asked, who was that girl? I hadn't expected her to bring up Chloe and was at a loss for words. Luna set the glass down, her voice calm. Julian, what was the first clause of our agreement? Separate lives, no interference, I repeated mechanically. Then why do you look so guilty? She raised an eyebrow. I'm just curious what kind of girl makes a workaholic like you drop everything to go on dates and see movies. Unsure how to explain that Chloe was just an actress I'd hired to spite her, I changed the subject. What about you and Leo's son? Luna paused, then a smile bloomed on her face. So that's it. Are you jealous, Julian? Don't flatter yourself, I said, standing up. I just don't want to be made a fool of. She suddenly reached out and grabbed the hem of my jacket. Leo is my cousin. It was a family dinner. The tabloids spun it into something else. I froze. Her cousin. Then my whole charade with Chloe for the past 3 months was that college girl, Luna said, letting go of my jacket, her voice returning to its usual cool tone. Do you like her? No, I blurted out. It was a business arrangement. She seemed to let out a small sigh of relief, then immediately hardened her expression. Not that I care. Our agreement still stands. Right, I nodded but couldn't stop myself from asking, why did you suddenly get so sick? Luna looked away. It was snowing in New York. I didn't pack a warm enough coat. I frowned. What about your assistant? I left her at the hotel to handle some documents, she said dismissively. I didn't think it would get that cold. A sharp pain lanced through my chest. That was Luna all over, a machine when it came to work, as if she was trying to fill every waking moment with busyness. As if she were running from something. After she was discharged, our relationship underwent a subtle shift. Luna no longer actively avoided me, and we'd even exchange a few words about work over breakfast. But I noticed she started appearing around me with suspicious frequency. If I was working late in my home office, she'd happen to come in to grab a file. If I was in the gym, she just so happened to need a workout too. The most absurd instance was last Friday. I was meeting a client at a golf club in Westchester to close a deal. To my astonishment, Luna showed up on the adjacent fairway, dressed in a tennis skirt, her long, toned legs distracting my client to no end. You play golf now, Ms. Sterling? I couldn't help but ask. She executed an elegant swing, the ball soaring in a perfect arc. Just picked it up. I watched her flawless form and thought, her acting is far worse than Chloe's. That night, I stepped out of the shower to find Luna sitting on the sofa in my bedroom, flipping through a copy of Forbes. Something I can help you with? I asked, toweling my hair. She set the magazine down, her gaze lingering on my bare torso. Julian, how long have we been married? Luna stood and walked slowly toward me. She was wearing a silk robe that clung to her curves as she moved, offering tantalizing glimpses of the silhouette beneath. I felt my throat go dry. 5 months and 3 days, I answered automatically, then mentally kicked myself for remembering so precisely. Luna stood and walked slowly toward me. She was wearing a silk robe that clung to her curves as she moved, offering tantalizing glimpses of the silhouette beneath. I felt my throat go dry. You know, she said, stopping right in front of me and tilting her head up. I've been thinking about something lately. What's that? What if? Her hand came up to rest on my chest, her fingertips cool against my skin. What if we hadn't gotten married like this? Would things be different? My heart hammered against my ribs. I caught her restless hand in mine. What do you mean? Luna suddenly rose on her toes, pressing a soft, fleeting kiss to my lips before quickly stepping back. That's what I mean. I stood there, stunned, the ghost of her touch leaving my brain on standby. She was already at the door. Turning back, she gave me a sly, knowing smile. "Good night, Julian." The door clicked shut. I remained rooted to the spot, unable to process what had just happened. The next morning at breakfast, Luna was the picture of composure, as if last night's ambush had never occurred. I stared at her as she gracefully ate her avocado toast. "Luna, what the hell are you trying to do?" I finally asked. She set down her coffee cup and blinked. "Isn't it obvious? I'm pursuing you." "What?" "Julian," she said, her expression suddenly serious. "Let's start over. Not as rivals, not as business partners, but as two people who might actually fall in love." My grip tightened on my knife, my heart pounding like a drum. "Why the sudden?" "It's not sudden," she said softly. "I've had a crush on you for years. Since college." The confession was so unexpected that my fork clattered onto my plate. "College? But back then we were—" "Every time you swooped in and stole a project from me, I was furious. But I also couldn't stop paying attention to every single thing you did," Luna admitted with a wry smile. "When my father proposed the merger, I was so happy I couldn't sleep. But I was terrified you'd see right through me, so I drafted that ridiculous agreement to protect myself." My mind flashed back through years of our bitter rivalries, and I suddenly saw it all in a new light. How many of those so-called competitions had been her elaborate attempts to manufacture a reason for us to cross paths? "And Leo's son. Genuinely my cousin," she said with an exasperated sigh. "As for Chloe Jensen, I looked into it. Just an actress you hired. Your jealousy was surprisingly cute, by the way." My ears burned, but I held my ground. "Who said I was jealous?" Luna stood and rounded the table. She leaned over me, her long hair brushing against my shoulder. "So, Julian, are you willing to give me a chance to win you over?" I looked up at her face, so close to mine. Those eyes, usually so full of defiant pride, were now incredibly soft. In that moment, I understood. All the frustration, the jealousy, the worry of the past few months, it all pointed to one undeniable truth. "You don't have to," I said, grabbing her wrist and pulling her on my lap. "Luna, let's start over. For real this time." Her eyes lit up, then turned mischievous. "And the prenup?" "Shredded," I said, cupping the back of her head and finally kissing the lips that had driven me crazy for years. This time, there were no games, no contracts. Just two hearts finally laid bare. On Monday at noon, I walked into my office to find a pink thermal lunch carrier sitting squarely on my desk. "What is this?" I asked my assistant, Kevin, with a frown. Kevin looked deeply uncomfortable. "Ms. Jensen dropped it off. She said it's a homemade lunch for you and insisted on leaving it here." My temples throbbed. After firmly turning Chloe down last week, I thought the matter was closed. I couldn't believe she'd shown up at my company. "Get rid of it," I said, hanging up my suit jacket. "And from now on, she's not allowed in the building." Just as Kevin reached for the carrier, the office door swung open. Luna stood there, dressed in a sharp navy blue pantsuit and holding a folder, but her eyes were locked on the offensively pink object on my desk. "Am I interrupting something?" she asked, a cold smile touching her lips. Kevin froze, caught in the crossfire. I waved him out, then turned to Luna. "Did you need something?" She strode in and slapped the folder down on my desk. The Apex Corp proposal. "Take a look." Her gaze, however, remained fixed on the lunch carrier. "Ms. Jensen is quite thoughtful. A special delivery lunch." I felt a pang of unwarranted guilt. I was just about to have it thrown out. "Why would you do that?" Luna raised an eyebrow. "It's the thought that counts." I opened the carrier. Inside was an elaborate bento box, the rice and vegetables arranged into the shape of a heart. "You want it?" I asked, pushing it toward her. Luna's expression darkened. "Julian, what is that supposed to mean?" "Exactly what it sounds like," I said, leaning back in my chair. "Since you're so concerned with my dining habits, why don't you be in charge of my lunch from now on?" She narrowed her eyes. "This is a marriage of convenience. Don't push your luck, is it?" I stood and closed the distance between us, because I seemed to recall someone confessing a long-held crush just last week. Someone who wanted to pursue me. Luna took a step back, her back hitting a bookshelf, but she kept her chin held high. "A business tactic. You started it when you hired a college girl to make me jealous." I looked down at her, at the way she was trying so hard to appear unfazed, and was suddenly amused. Her perfume, a cool, crisp cedar mixed with a hint of sweet orange, was a contradiction, just like her. "Luna," I murmured, my voice low, "you're adorable when you're jealous." The tips of her ears turned bright red. She shoved me away. "Don't flatter yourself." She turned to leave. I caught her wrist. "Wait, the Apex proposal. Read it yourself," she snapped, pulling her hand free and stalking out. I shook my head, smiling, and opened the folder. Tucked inside was a small note. 7 p.m. Magnolia. Don't be late. Ed. Magnolia was the restaurant where we'd had our first, painfully awkward meeting. I ran my thumb over the note, a strange warmth spreading through my chest. During an afternoon meeting, my phone buzzed with a text from Luna. Something came up. Have to cancel. I frowned and typed back, what is it? After 10 minutes with no reply, I called her. It went straight to voicemail. Mr. Vance, the CFO prompted me. About this quarter's projections. I listened with half an ear, and the moment the meeting ended, I headed straight for Luna's office. Her assistant informed me she'd taken the rest of the day off. She left for the day. I was incredulous. The workaholic Luna Sterling, taking a personal day. Yes, sir. She said she wasn't feeling well. I drove home immediately, calling our family doctor on the way. When I pushed open the front door of the penthouse, the housekeeper met me. Mr. Vance. Ms. Sterling is in her room. She asked not to be disturbed. What's wrong with her? She seemed to have a fever. She looked very pale when she came in. I took the stairs 2 at a time, stopping before Luna's door and knocking gently. Luna? It's me. No answer. I tried the handle. It was unlocked. The room was dim. Luna was curled up on the bed, wrapped tightly in a duvet, only a mess of dark hair visible. Luna, I called softly, walking to the bedside. She slowly opened her eyes, her cheeks flushed with fever. What are you doing back? I touched her forehead. It was scorching. You're burning up and you're still trying to act tough? The doctor is on his way. She shook her head weakly. Don't need. I took some medicine. When did you start feeling sick? This morning. A little dizzy. I finally connected the dots. Her uncharacteristic anger, her leaving work early. It was because she was sick. A wave of guilt washed over me. Why didn't you say anything? Would you have cared? She murmured, her eyes half closed. My chest tightened. Of course I would. Luna let out a soft, humorless laugh that turned into a coughing fit. I quickly helped her sit up, holding a glass of warm water to her lips. She took a few small sips, her lips dry and pale from the fever. On pure impulse, I reached out and gently brushed a drop of water from the corner of her mouth with my thumb. Luna froze, her eyes widening as she looked up at me. That sharp, intimidating gaze was gone, replaced by a damp, fever-induced vulnerability. Julian, she whispered, her voice impossibly soft. Yeah, can you? Can I what? She lowered her gaze. Stay with me. My heart skipped a beat. The proud, indomitable Luna Sterling, asking for help? I pulled a chair to the bedside. I'm not going anywhere. The doctor diagnosed her with the flu, prescribed medication, and ordered plenty of rest. After I saw him out, I returned to Luna's side. She had already drifted into a restless sleep. I gently brushed a stray strand of hair from her forehead, my gaze fixed on her flushed cheeks. A strange, protective instinct swelled in my chest. This woman, a titan in the boardroom, looked so fragile right now. My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Vance, it's Leo's son. Can we meet? It's about Luna. I frowned, glanced at the sleeping woman beside me, and replied, she's resting at home. The reply came instantly. I know. I need to speak with you. Alone. The next morning, Luna's fever had subsided slightly, but the doctor advised her to rest for another 2 days. I left her in the care of the housekeeper and went to the office. Leo's son had suggested a coffee shop near the Vance Holdings building. When I arrived, he was already waiting in a corner booth, a baseball cap and a mask obscuring most of his face. Mr. Vance. He stood, his voice low. I motioned for him to sit. What's so important it couldn't be said over the phone. Leo removed his mask, revealing a handsome face that indeed shared a resemblance to Luna's. First, I want to be clear. Luna is my cousin, he said, getting straight to the point. Our mothers are sisters. She told me. Second, Leo's expression turned grim. Someone is trying to hurt her. I frowned. What do you mean? He slid a flash drive across the table. She's been investigating something lately, and I think she's gotten too close to a hornet's nest. Someone tampered with her car last week. Luckily, her mechanic caught it. My blood ran cold. Why didn't she tell me? You know what my cousin is like, Leo said with a humorless smile. She didn't want to drag you into it. I gripped the flash drive. What's on this? Some of the files she's gathered. It's about Chloe Jensen. I looked up sharply. Chloe? Leo nodded. Her approaching you wasn't a coincidence. Luna found a link between her and Apex Corp. Apex, our biggest competitor on the new bid. A chill went down my spine. If this was true, then I hadn't just been played for a fool. I had. Luna wanted to have all the facts before she told you, Leo continued. But the stress has been immense, and the scare with her car was the last straw. That's why she got sick. My chest felt tight. I thought of Luna, weak and feverish, and realized it wasn't just the flu. Thank you for telling me this, I said, my voice heavy. I'll handle it. Leo hesitated. Mr. Vance, my cousin. She really cares about you. I've never seen her fight this hard for anyone or anything in her life. I was taken aback. We're a business arrangement. Are you? Leo smiled faintly. Then why did you race home the second you heard she was sick? Why are you still frowning like the world is ending? I had no answer. Back in my office, I plugged in the drive. It contained a detailed file on Chloe, including photos of her meeting with a senior executive from Apex Corp on multiple occasions. The most damning part was that the meetings had started before I had ever found her. From the very beginning, it had been an elaborate setup. I immediately called security, ordering them to increase protection at our offices in the penthouse, and assigned a covert detail to Luna. After work, I went straight home, determined to talk to Luna about this. But as I pushed open the door, I heard the sound of laughter coming from the living room. Really? Luna, that's amazing. It was a woman's voice, a familiar one. I froze in the entryway, unable to believe my ears. Chloe? What was she doing in my home? Rounding the corner, I saw Luna on the sofa. Her face was still pale, but she looked much better. And sitting across from her, sharing tea and pastries as if they were old friends, was Chloe Jensen. Mr. Vance. Chloe saw me first and shot to her feet, a flash of panic on her face. Luna turned her head, her expression serene. You're home. I looked from her to Chloe. What is this? Ms. Jensen came to see you, Luna said casually. She seemed quite distressed, so I invited her in. Chloe's eyes were red-rimmed. Mr. Vance, I swear I didn't know. Mr. Cross just told me to get close to you, to learn about Vance Holdings. I never thought they would. What are you doing in my house? I interrupted coldly. I got a threatening text today, she said, her hands trembling as she pulled out her phone. It said I knew too much, that they'd make sure I never worked in this town again. Luna stood. Julia, Ms. Jensen is telling the truth. I checked. She was just a pawn they used. I stared at Luna in disbelief. You believe her? I believe in evidence, she said, walking toward me and lowering her voice. And right now, she's terrified and needs help. I finally noticed the dark bruise on Chloe's wrist, a clear sign she'd been manhandled. As angry as I was, my rational mind knew Luna was right. You can stay in the guest room for now, I told Chloe. We'll handle this. Chloe nodded gratefully and followed the housekeeper out. The living room was silent, leaving just me and Luna. When did you wake up? I asked. Around 3. She poured me a glass of water. Leo found you? I nodded, handing her back the flash drive. Why didn't you tell me? Luna bit her lip. I want to be sure first. And the tampering with your car? She looked surprised. Leo told you that, too? She waved a dismissive hand. It was just a small puncture in the brake line. They found it early. No big deal. No big deal. My voice rose sharply. Luna, you could have been killed. She was stunned by my sudden anger, blinking in surprise. Are you worried about me? I took a deep breath, forcing down the turmoil inside me. We're business partners. Your safety affects both our companies. A flicker of disappointment crossed Luna's eyes, but she quickly masked it. Don't worry, I'm careful. You, on the other hand, should stop picking up college students. You never know who might be a corporate spy. Watching her feigned nonchalance, I suddenly reached out and pulled her into my arms. She stumbled against my chest, looking up in surprise. Julian, don't move, I commanded, tightening my arms and resting my chin on the top of her head. Just let me hold you for a second. She stiffened for a moment, then slowly relaxed, pressing her forehead against my shoulder. You scare me. You scared me, I said, my voice muffled. From now on, you tell me everything. Do you hear me? Luna gave a soft mitchum, her breath warm and real against my neck. In that moment, with a clarity that hit me like a physical blow, I knew I could never, ever lose her. At 10 that night, I knocked on the guest room door where Chloe was staying. I've booked you a flight to Miami for tomorrow, I said, handing her a ticket. Lay low until this blows over. Chloe bit her lip. Mr. Vance, I really am sorry. I know, I cut her off, but you need to be out of sight for a while. She nodded, then asked hesitantly, Luna, is she really your wife? I raised an eyebrow. Why do you ask? You too. You don't seem like a typical couple, she said carefully, but it also seems like you care about each other a lot. I didn't know how to answer. I wasn't even sure how to define my relationship with Luna. She's a good person, Chloe said suddenly. She could have thrown me out today, but she spent hours comforting me. I was a little surprised. She comforted you? Yeah, Chloe nodded. She told me that making mistakes when you're young isn't the end of the world, that what matters is learning from them. She also said that you're actually a softie and you wouldn't really stay mad at me. A warmth spread through my chest. Luna knew me that well. When I returned to the master suite, I found Luna sitting on my bed, reading a financial report, already dressed for bed. "What are you doing in here?" I asked, closing the door. She didn't look up. "Is Ms. Jensen settled?" "Yes. She leaves tomorrow." I took off my jacket. "You still haven't answered my question. Why are you in my room?" Luna closed the report and looked at me. "Chloe has the guest room. The housekeeper assumed we'd be sharing." I raised an eyebrow. So, I'm magnanimously willing to share with you for one night," she said, trying to sound aloof, though the pink tinge at the tips of her ears gave her away. "Don't worry, I won't try anything." I couldn't help but smile. I think that's supposed to be my line. She threw a pillow at me. "Go take a shower. You smell like the city." By the time I came out, Luna had fallen asleep, leaning against the headboard, the report having slipped from her grasp. I quietly tidied up her papers and switched off the main lights, leaving only a single bedside lamp on. In the dim, golden light, I studied her sleeping face. Without the sharp edges of her daytime armor, Luna looked peaceful, her long lashes casting soft shadows, her lips still a little pale from her illness. Carefully, I slid into bed beside her, trying not to disturb her. But the moment I settled, Luna unconsciously rolled over, draping an arm across my waist and nestling her head on my shoulder. "Luna," I whispered. She mumbled a soft admission, her breathing even and deep. She was fast asleep. I lay there, perfectly still, afraid to move. Her hair tickled my chin, and the faint, clean scent of jasmine from her shampoo filled the air. After what felt like an eternity, I slowly relaxed, gently wrapping my arm around her shoulder. As if sensing the warmth, Luna snuggled closer into my embrace with a soft, contented sigh. I looked down at her, at the way she trusted me in her sleep, and a feeling of profound contentment washed over me. In that quiet moment, I finally understood. I had fallen in love with this proud, stubborn, brilliant woman. I had probably been in love with her for a very, very long time. The early morning sun cut through a gap in the curtains. I opened my eyes and realized Luna was no longer in bed. The faint scent of jasmine on the pillow was the only proof that last night hadn't been a dream. My phone vibrated. It was a text from my secretary. "Mr. Vance, Marcus Cross from Apex Corp. is demanding an urgent meeting. Says it's about a critical partnership." I frowned. Apex Corp., the company Luna was investigating. For their CEO to demand a meeting now was too much of a coincidence. After getting ready, I went downstairs. The housekeeper told me Luna had left early. Did she say where she was going? "Ms. Sterling only said she had urgent business at the office and that you shouldn't worry." I immediately dialed Luna's cell. It was off. I tried her assistant, who told me Luna hadn't come into the office at all. A cold dread crept up my spine. I had our security team pull the surveillance footage from around the penthouse. The video showed Luna leaving alone in her car at 7 a.m., but 10 minutes later, less than a mile from home, her car was cut off by a black van. Two masked men got out, pulled her from her car, and forced her into theirs. My blood turned to ice. My phone rang again. An unknown number. "Mr. Vance," a synthesized robotic voice said. "If you want to see your wife again, come to the abandoned chemical plant in Queens. Alone. And don't even think about calling the police, or you'll be sorry." The line went dead. I stood there, the shards of the coffee cup I'd crushed in my hand digging into my palm, the hot liquid scalding my sleeve. I didn't feel a thing. Luna had been kidnapped. It was all my fault. An hour later, I was driving alone to the abandoned chemical plant in Queens. The area was a wasteland of overgrown weeds and rusting metal. The main gate hung half open like a gaping, monstrous mouth. I took a deep breath and pushed my way inside. The cavernous factory floor was dark, dust motes dancing in the beams of light slanting through broken windows. From somewhere in the distance, I heard Luna's voice. "Let go of me. Do you have any idea who I am?" I ran toward the sound, navigating a maze of silent machinery. After turning a corner, I finally saw her. She was tied to a chair, her suit jacket gone, her white silk blouse smudged with dirt. There was a cut on her lip, but her eyes were still blazing with defiance. "Julian, don't come any closer," she yelled the moment she saw me. "It's a trap. Shut up." A masked man next to her backhanded her across the face. Pure rage flooded my senses. I started to lunge forward, but a slow, deliberate clapping sound echoed from the shadows behind them. "How touching, Mr. Vance." Marcus Cross, the CEO of Apex Corp., stepped into the light, flanked by 4 large bodyguards. I never thought a merger of convenience could blossom into such a deep and meaningful relationship. I forced myself to remain calm. "Cross, what is this?" "What is this?" he sneered. "You and your wife have been digging into my business, trying to sabotage my company, and now you ask me what this is?" Luna struggled against her ropes. Julian, he wants the city permits for the South Brooklyn Development Project. Don't give them to him. Cross walked over to Luna and grabbed a fistful of her hair, yanking her head back. Ms. Sterling, you're not in a position to be giving orders. He turned his cold eyes to me. Let's make a deal, Vance. The permits for the South Brooklyn Project, in exchange for your wife's life. I stared at Luna's swollen cheek, my chest constricting as if caught in a vice. The South Brooklyn Project was the cornerstone of Vance Holdings' next 3 years. Handing over those permits meant flushing billions of dollars in initial investment down the drain. Don't listen to him, Luna gritted out. He won't dare to do anything to me. Cross let out a vicious laugh and pulled a gun, pressing the barrel to Luna's temple. Are you sure about that, Ms. Sterling? My breath caught in my throat. Time seemed to stretch, each second an eternity. Luna's eyes met mine. She gave a slight, almost imperceptible shake of her head, her gaze resolute. Fine, I heard myself say. You get the permits. Luna's eyes went wide. Julian, are you insane? I took the file from my briefcase and held it out to Cross. Let her go. Cross signaled one of his men to take the documents. He scanned them, then smiled with satisfaction. Vance, you're a man of your word. But he didn't lower the gun. Unfortunately, I've had a change of heart. You both know too much. It's better if you just disappear together. The color drained from Luna's face. Julian, run. In that split second, the wail of sirens suddenly erupted outside the factory. Cross flinched, and I seized the moment, tackling him and sending us both sprawling to the ground. The gun went off, a bullet ricocheting off the ceiling as plaster and dust rained down. NYPD, drop your weapons. A SWAT team stormed the building, led by Leo's son. And right behind him was Chloe. She must have seen the look on my face when I left, followed me, and run into Leo on the way. The two of them must have realized something was wrong and called the police. In the chaos, Cross scrambled free and raised his gun, aiming it straight at Luna. Without a second thought, I threw myself in front of her, bang. The gunshot roared in my ears, but I felt no pain. I opened my eyes to see Leo standing in front of us, a dark stain spreading across his shoulder. He had taken the bullet. The police swarmed in, quickly subduing Cross and his men. I rushed to Luna's side, fumbling with the ropes. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Her trembling hands came up to frame my face. Are you an idiot? Why did you come here? I pulled her into a fierce embrace, burying my face in her hair. Because I can't lose you. Luna finally broke, sobbing into my arms, her tears soaking through my shirt. In that moment, all the pride, the calculations, the corporate empires, none of it mattered. The only thing I knew was that the woman in my arms was more important than my own life.